everybody sign in? If not, we can pass it around. Has everybody signed in? Okay. Several years ago, when all the stuff was changing in education, and you had to designate whether you were going to be like a charter school, IE2 school, which is a strategic waiver school, or business as usual, meaning keeping everything the same. All right, so do y'all remember when all that went on a few years ago? At our school, after getting feedback, turned out to be a IE2 school, so we were a strategic waiver school system, meaning that you were able to change the way that you did some things, and you sent it to the state, and what you said you were going to do was approved, and then thus you became an IE2 school. All right. With the strategic waiver school, of course, you get what? You have an evaluation every year, and your evaluation is based on your CCRPI score and whether you what they call beat the odds. Okay, I'm not gonna read all this, but basically we are a strategic waiver school, and we have a performance contract which was sent and provided by the local school district, and then after a year, you are based on your CCRPI score, you are say whether you met it or not. Then you have like I said, your CCRPI score. Then you have what they call beating the odds. Let's see. All right. Then you have what you call beating the odds. And beating the odds is basically a statistical analysis that compares a school's actual performance on the CCRPI with the performance of schools with similar characteristics across the state. Schools that perform higher than similar schools are considered beating the odds. It's important to note that sometimes schools that beat the odds have a lower CCRPI rate, but with the statistical analysis that they use, they can still beat the odds. So there's two ways to pass this this waiver that we are on making us an IE2 school. It's either by beating the odds or increasing your CCRPI score by 3% each year. Okay. Well, any questions so far as to what I'm saying? Any clarification? Okay. So then each year they sent out okay. So we got an email yesterday. For some reason that won't jump. But anyway, just take my word for it, you can't see it. But increase your score by 3% of the gap between your baseline year, which is 2016, or you can do the beating the odds calculation, which is what I just said. That's how you, now, this is our first year evaluation, so schools that do not meet their contract terms the first year must implement a school-led improvement plan, and then GOSA, Georgia Association, I forgot what the OS stands for. They will hire specialists to help schools understand there's specific contract requirement, IE2 contract requirement. Y'all know all this leading up to, don't you? Yeah. I know y'all do, I know. So, for us, all right, here's our results. Our baseline was 70.5. Okay, this is based on our CCRPI score without challenge points. 2017, it was 69.7. So we did not meet our target score, which is our 3% increase and we also did not meet the odds. So meet target year is a no. So now we have to come up with a plan, and then we have to execute that plan with the help of a person that GOSA's gonna send, and we have to be able to show how we're executing the plan, and then also how we're monitoring the execution of the plan. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we had the department chairs do an improvement plan worksheet. I think they sent out to each department and talked about what it is that they felt like. Because I said, listen, y'all tell me what we can do to improve. So I do have those improvement plan worksheets. We also have, there seems to still be a little confusion about Hawktime and what that should look like. Because what happens, whenever you do a plan or call yourself doing some improvement, the first thing you have to show is data on how you're monitoring these improvements. Because we can easily say, well, you know, every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we got to increase learning time for these content areas. Now, we can easily say that, but if we don't have the data showing that we're looking at the data and we're using that data to improve instruction, then it doesn't count, okay? I walked around a couple days and just looked in. There still seem to be some confusion about Hawktime, so I'm gonna do my best to clear it up, because now we just gotta step our game up. That's just the bottom line. We were here at CCRPI and we dipped. Not counting the challenge points, so it's all on it's all on content. Yeah, y'all still remember challenge points. Challenge points was all that extra stuff that they put in there to increase your CCRPI score, to make you feel good about yourself. And then at the end, we're not gonna count your score, we're gonna pull those challenge points, because we're not gonna count them as far as you're achieving your IE squared. They're not gonna count that stuff, okay? So now that we know that, we just have to adjust. We just have to step our game up, and we just have to do things to show and have evidence of, yeah, we're looking at the data, and based on the data, we're doing our formative assessments, we're looking at the data, based on the data, this is how we're adjusting our instruction, okay? And when we walk into a room, whether it's me, Dr. Henn, other administrators, or somebody from the state, walk into a room, then that's what they need to see, okay? Now, fortunately, we have all this stuff in place already. The part that we gotta step our game up is doing it like it was originally meant to be done. By looking at the data. When I walked in rooms the other day, there was some differentiation going on, but I wasn't real sure that it was going on based on data. So, Hawktime days are strictly days based on looking at your formative assessments, seeing what your formative assessments are telling you on each individual student for each individual class, and then based on that data, setting your Hawktime day instruction to fix whatever that data is showing you that needs to be fixed. Okay? So if I'm doing whatever lesson, and I'm doing my formative assessments at the end of that 10-minute bell, and I'm using my clicker and I'm doing those formative assessments, then I'm gonna look at that data, and then based on that data, I'm gonna set up my Hawktime day. Now on your, you do your collaborative planning, on your particular Hawktime day, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, in that square, it's probably gonna look different. You know, it's probably gonna look different as far as me going from class to class, because some classes are gonna need more assistance than other classes, depending on what class you have and what period you have. So on your Hawktime day, what you're gonna have to do is set up, based on the data, there are gonna be some kids that may not get it, that you're gonna have to work with them. There are gonna be other kids that might need a little bit of adjustment. There are gonna be other students that got it, and you can give them a separate assignment. So what that takes? That takes planning. When we walk into rooms, that's what Hawktime needs to look like. That's the time that we close and work on our gaps. And we do it all day, and we do it every period. This is nothing new. What's new is we're going to be really checking that data and looking at the data and making sure Hawktime is being done properly like it's supposed to be. No substituting, no moving it around, no changing the day. All right, we look at the day, whatever our Hawktime day is, that's the day that we need to be doing Hawktime instruction. Okay? And all this is based on data. It's not something that Dr. Gray laid down last night and thought about. This is strictly based on data. So when you see data and we dip, we just gotta step our game up. That's all it is. Nothing personal, nothing saying that we're not working or we're not doing what we're supposed to do. We just gotta really start looking at that data, because again, it's not our honors kids or our AP kids. You know, if we were able to separate that data and look at it, I guarantee you it's not our honors and AP. It's our red kids. It's our kids that's struggling, that we have to do something to try to close that gap and bring those kids up. Because without those students, we don't have enough honors and AP kids. When you look at the percentage of if we got 850 kids, what percentage would you say are honors and AP? Off the top of your head.
Say that again?
If we looked at, out of 850 kids, what percentage of kids are honors and AP?
10%.
About 10%. So we don't have enough but a 10% to carry us. So if 10% is our honors and AP kids, I mean, you just do the math. And 90% of our kids that we're really counting on to increase our CCRPI scores for, like it or not, that's what when they look at that score, either you're achieving or you're not. That's just the way it is. So 90% are the kids that, and that's the group that we got to count on. So we have to do things to close that gap and to get those kids where they need to be. That's the only way we're going to go up. And it doesn't take, you know, I'm nowhere close to a genius, and it don't take a genius to understand that, okay? So we just have to step our game up from a monitoring standpoint and making sure it's happening, and then just step our game up for using Hawktime days like they were originally planned to be used. We've got the equipment to give us instant data, instant feedback data. So we've jumped that hurdle as far as time. And all we got to do is carve out time of the day or time of the week where we can look at it and then plan our lesson based on what the data is telling us. So look at your Hawktime day. When we come in there, that's what we should see. And then we have our literacy strategies, which is just the reading strategies incorporated into whatever lesson that you're doing. Nothing new, did last year, just a reading strategy incorporated into what you're doing. So you can go ahead on with your lessons. We just got specific days. And the reason we have specific days is because when you talk about your literacy strategies or you talk about your extended learning strategies, which is Hawktime, then the question is, when are you doing it? When is it happening in your building? How do you know that it's happening? Okay? So, again, if somebody from the state came, the superintendent came, or anybody came, and when I walk into science on Monday, and they're working on whatever it is they're working on, it should be working it through one of the strategies, because that's what we're saying we're doing. That's what we're saying we're doing in order to increase our scores. So it just cannot be lip service. We just got to have the data, and we got to have the proof that that's what we're doing, and that's what we're doing to increase our scores. Because if I'm saying that, and I'm saying we're doing that, and then the CCRPI scores come down like they did this past year, and they went and it dipped. So all of this is strictly based on data information. So if we didn't meet our mark on our IE square school, then we just step our game up. I think we already have the plan in place. I really do. I think we don't need to do a lot of wholesale changes, but I just think we need to really start looking at that data for what it is, reading that data, and then adjusting to the 90% of our kids that need for us to adjust on Hawktime. We want to do all this stuff built into the day. In that way, again, we can prove that we're doing, that it's being done, and we also have evidence. Any questions? Any questions about Hawktime or literacy strategies? Anybody unsure of what a Hawktime day should look like? Or when we walk in there, this Hawktime, what it should look like?
In other words, you're wanting us to differentiate by product, not necessarily by the grouping. Like if they need more help in the same area, you've got a higher level child working with a lower level child or whatever. You don't want it like that. You want it by product. Is what you're saying. Okay.
That's right. Based on what the data is telling you, you group your kids based on their need. There may be 3 kids that as a math teacher, I got to sit down and work with 3 kids and just work with them, and the rest of the kids could be, well, y'all kind of got it, you know. So if I walk in and say, okay, what's this group? Well, that group, they kind of got it. What's this group? That's my accelerated group. Okay, you got 4 kids that you're working with. That's my group that by data is showing that they're not quite getting it before we move on. And then if we do that based on the data, we're not teaching in the dark. We know exactly when it's time to give a summative, because we know that they know they got it. Now, does everybody have to be making 100? That's not what I'm saying. Okay, I'm not saying you got to keep doing it on that one, because you got to move on. It's got to be a point where you have to move on. But at least somewhere, as long as you're on that subject or that topic or that standard, those individual needs are being addressed. So as you move on, if we're addressing those needs, you should already pretty much know, number 1, if they're ready for the summative, and number 2, about where your summative class averages are going to be. Okay? With us submitting tests, looking at the DOK levels, that's another thing that we can add to how we're, that's another thing that we can add to how we're making efforts to increase our CCRPI score, thus helping us beat the odds, thus helping us, pass the score on the strategic waiver.